Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Welcome back to another episode of Ask the Knights Live. Not just another episode, but our 40th episode. Oh, yes, we've gotten here. And because no 40th is no good without a midlife crisis, we have gone and doubled down. That's right. We have not one, but two Dukes for you this evening. Why? Because we love you. Now, before we get to these fantastic gentlemen, I do have to say a couple of things real quick. I have been overwhelmed by the love and support and just general good feelings that I've been sent from all of my friends and all of you out there in the troubling times that I've had over the past couple of weeks. And I just wanted to thank you all. Number one, for all of your support. Number two, for continuing to watch the show. And number three, for my fantastic producer and sometimes host of this show, Cal. Without Cal, we would have had not one but two of these shows have to be postponed, and nobody wants to do that. So, Cal, thank you very much. And all of you out there, thank you so much for coming back. So, without further ado, I give you not one, but two Dukes. We have Duke Sven and Duke Sean. Gentlemen, welcome to Ask the Knights Live.
Hello. Hey, Sven, did he just call us a midlife crisis?
I think you. I'm young.
Me, okay. Me, clearly. Yeah.
Well, you know, you got to do something a little crazy. So you get two good-looking Dukes on the show. That's what you do, right?
I want my Corvette. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought you would buy like a really fast Destrier or a new suit of armor that you really didn't need.
I just bought a 1987 Corvette.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
I guess I'm there.
Yes, you're there.
I bought a 1952 Ford Custom Line when I turned 40. So, yeah. All right, gentlemen, they don't want to hear about our cars. They want to hear about you. So if you would be so kind as to introduce yourself and tell our wonderful audience a little bit about yourself.
Hello, everyone, and congratulations on your 40th episode. That's awesome. I am Duke Sven Gunnarsson from the Kingdom of Untitled. I'm from the Barony of Wellesmere, which is in northeastern Untitled. And I've been involved in this game for about 40 years, fighting for about 34 of it, and still going strong. So thanks for having me.
I am Duke Sir Sean Kirkpatrick Tarragon. I'm from the Kingdom of Artemisia, locally the Barony of Loxalan, which is the Salt Lake City, Utah area. Likewise, I've been in the SCA for close to 40 years now. I've been fighting for 35 plus years of that as well. And I've happy to be here. I was on Ask the Knights previously with one of my former squires, and I'd like to take just a moment to thank my friend Sven for letting me strong arm him into coming on and answering some questions with us. So thanks for being here, man.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you both. I really appreciate you guys coming on here. So before we get to the questions, which is what everybody wants, just a real quick reminder that this show is nothing without our audience. And I say that because I've only got questions for about half the show, so you guys have to fill in the rest of the questions. So if you have a questions for these two esteemed gentlemen, please put it into the comments. Yeah, ask those questions and make sure that you include your SCA name and title so we don't get it right. Now, I will guarantee you that I will say your name wrong, but I want to do that with all due respect. So make sure you get your titles in there as well. So that comes about halfway point of our show. So shall we get into it, gents?
Yes,
yeah.
All right. So here we go again. Your Grace Sean, you've already answered this question, but you're going to have to do it again.
All right.
what, tell us about your first SCA event. Actually, I'll tell you what, I'll change it up for you since you've already done this question on this show. Why don't you tell us about your favorite SCA event of all time, like the one that you love the most?
So there's so many. Where to start? Um, you know, after all these years, I think my favorite SCA event of all time was probably the SCA 20-year celebration down in Anstiora. I went down there with my knight Brian, who was Crown Prince of Aidenvelt. And he was the host with the most, and so everybody was coming to camp, and I was so the social coordinator, and trying to make sure everybody was had drinks and was comfortable, and you got to meet a lot of people, and even though it was pouring down rain for most of the time that we were there, it was just, we still had just a blast, even in spite of the rain and sometimes because of it. And there were so many people that I got to meet and watch fight. I wasn't old enough to fight at 20-year, because NCR at the time, your minimum fighting age was 18. So I was not quite 16 when I was there. But yeah, I'm with Brian, and Trelon was king of Aidenvelt. And I look back and talking to some of these guys that were crowns at that time, and I got to watch Torgal, tear everything up. And watching Brian and Trelon and Ronald and James and Jade when he was a squire. Watching all these guys, just because I was at all the tournaments, following around Brian and watching and being his squire, and man, just it was crazy. And man, the parties were off the hook. And it was just, I know a lot of people have a similar experience with 30-year, and I had a good time at 30-year as well. But for my money, I think 20-year celebration is probably my if I had to pick one all-time favorite event, that would probably be it.
Awesome.
How long were you in the SCA at that point?
Oh, I started in 82, and that was 86. So I'd been in 4 years. So I've been in 4 years. It was Brian's second reign. Or he was Crown Prince the second time. And I got knighted a year later.
Nice.
So obviously it worked out all right for me.
Yeah.
Not too bad.
Yeah, you did okay.
All righty. So to Sven, your question, since this is your first time on the show, is tell us about your very first SCA event. Like, what was the first thing that you ever went to?
Geez. So I was 8 when we started. So because I'm a second generation kid. So my mom and dad they just drug us to events, right? And so I can give you the event that kind of cemented my path, if that works. I think so. I was probably 12, because in between 8 and 12, like, it's just a blur of what was going on. I'd say 1985 May Crown tournament, and it was a guy named Dak Jarl Olfordson and another guy named Monty DePaul, who was a squire at the time, and they were in the finals of that crown. And Dak was actually squired to Torgal, the guy you were talking about. He was a knight at that time, but I watched that guy from the beginning to the end of that tournament, and he won it. And I was like, okay, 1, I'm going to be his squire, and 2, that's what I want to be, and this is what I want to do. And I never looked back from that point on. So I'd say it was around that time frame and that event.
And you were like 13?
I think I was 12. Yeah. I think I was just turning 13. So
yeah. I did that when I was 12 and first saw the SCA as well. I mean, it's like there's something like the moment I saw like that thing you're looking for. As soon as you see it, you're like, well, I'm here.
It was just
Yeah.
it was just magic to, I guess, to not find a better term, but I mean, it's just vivid in my mind, and just has really kind of solidified my SCA experience was that event. So,
Well, I think magic is a perfect term. You hear that a lot in the SCA, you know, this event was magical, or is that, you know, it's my medieval magic or whatever. But it's a perfect term. It's how you feel. Yeah, that's fantastic answers, gentlemen. So let's move on to our next question. And that is, so what keeps you coming back?
Oh, me. So I guess so. I'm pretty competitive and drive, and I just want to succeed, and I want to grow, and I want to get better. And because you're just, if you stay like static and just don't ever grow, then like it's just, what's the point? And so it's just, I'm constantly trying to find and learn and look at something and do something different. Learn, like a perfect example is a squire that I have right now. His name's Alexandros. He came from Amtgard. Phenomenal guy, phenomenal fighter. So I ended up squiring him and just learning from that guy and going back and forth. It just keeps me motivated and keeps me feeling young and keeps me out there with these guys. I think that's really what keeps me going. And just trying to get better. Really, that's what keeps me going.
Excellent.
Yeah, ultimately, I mean, this is an answer that you hear a lot of, and I think it's because it's true. It's the people. It's your chosen family. That's the biggest thing that keeps me coming back. I miss all these people. But one of the things that really gives me just great joy after having, I mean, Sven and I have both had some pretty considerable success in our fighting careers. And one of the things that keeps me going as a fighter is sharing that experience with other people, and, you know, helping somebody else achieve the kind of success that I have had is way more satisfying than any success I can have at this point for myself. You know, getting that text or that email is like, hey, I won this big tournament, thanks for your help. You know, is just that's one of the things that keeps me coming back. Is, I mean, the SCA has given me so much, and being able to return a portion of that to somebody and let them have the kind of success that I have, that definitely keeps me going as a fighter, you know. And like Sven, I'm a little bit competitive myself, so
just a little bit. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Okay. So, all right. So our next question, well, and this is actually popped up in the, well, actually, we'll save that for the other half of the show. Next question. So, being knights and dukes, and each of you have had or even currently have squires, correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So what have you found is the most difficult thing about teaching another person, and what did you do to get around it?
You know, early on, I, you know, after my first couple of squires, you know, they don't really play so much anymore, and that's when I'd kind of learned that my single driving criteria for taking somebody as a squire ends up being passion, because passion is the one thing that I can't teach somebody. I can maybe inspire it. I can maybe, you know, share my passion for what we do with somebody else. But if you don't have passion about what we do, if you don't love what we do, it's going to be really, really hard for you to succeed. And it turns out that sort of thing is kind of frustrating for me, probably because I never had to learn it. I always had it from day one. I knew that this is what I wanted to do. But for me, if, you know, passion is the one thing you can't teach. And if somebody has that, and I'm talking about, okay, first off, when we talk about sacrifices and passion and the things you need to do this, let's throw out the idea of quitting an event, quitting a job so you can go to an event, right? That's not the kind of sacrifice we're talking about. I don't want you to sacrifice your family and your livelihood just so you can play this game. But if your job is sending you across country to do work and you have room to put your armor in your bag, you're going to pack your armor just in case you're going to be able to get to a practice. And if you don't, that's great, but that's better than, flying out somewhere and finding out that you could have gone to practice if only you brought your armor. It's little things like that, like thinking about fighting all the time and finding any opportunity you can to do it. So that was kind of one of the earlier frustrations, because once you find students that have that love and that drive and that passion, man, my job gets really easy. I mean, I can teach you anything, but I can't teach you to love it.
Man, you took my answer. I would say passion, drive, because like you said, anything else. I mean, if you have those things, then I can drag you around, take you everywhere, have you meet anybody, fight anybody, do whatever. I can teach you whatever else it takes. But if you don't have that commitment or that drive to do it, then it's a pretty difficult task that lies in front of you then as a knight. So I agree.
Yeah. So just keeping people passionate.
Yeah. And as far as the harder things about teaching people, that was kind of a lesson that I had to learn, because I'm like, I really like this guy and he seems to really like fighting, and then you come to find out that they don't like it. They don't love it. They like it, they like being around the fighters, but they don't love it, and it was kind of frustrating. It's like,
well, you're pretty rare, so rare mentality is sitting right here. So.
Alrighty.
Likewise, your grace.
So we'll move on. See, this is the craziest thing. Like I get to really good guests on the show. I start asking questions. I see like we've gotten 2-3 questions in, and we're almost halfway done with the show already. The time just flies. It's ridiculous. So let me get a few more in here before we jump into the audience questions. This one's always a big one. Well, so when you are considering a candidate for knighthood, someone comes up in the council, is age ever a factor? Like, too old, too young? Seriously,
that seems like a loaded question.
For me, no. I mean, as long as you're the legal age to fight within this game, and you're presenting and showing the qualities of knighthood, and your fighting is in line with everybody else, I would support you 100%. And I don't care how old you are. If you're beating the crap out of me, like, it doesn't matter to me how old you are. If you're doing what you need to do to get that accolade, then I'm all behind it. So.
Good
yeah,
answer.
likewise. A totally loaded question for the both of us. There are 40-year-old fighters who I would consider young in this society, and there are teenagers who've been around it since birth, that have a much better understanding of how the society functions. So age is definitely not that is not a factor. I mean, even though these many decades after Sven and I got knighted, and for those paying attention at home, Sven and I were both teenagers when we got knighted, so we have a little bit of skewed perspective on that, I think. But yeah, it's not a factor. It shouldn't be a factor. I mean, if you're kicking ass and you are doing knightly things, then you're a knight.
Yeah. It could be a harder road if you're a young person, but I mean,
I had some bumps.
What's that?
I had some bumps.
Yeah. How now? So you were 17 or 16?
It was a month before I turned 16, or a month before I turned 17. So I was 16.
So you were 16. Did you have
And
your
you were 19
opens yet?
And you were 19.
Yes, I was. I was an old man. So.
All right, gentlemen. Another question for you. So I don't think I have this on the list, so Cal's going to yell at me later. But do you consider yourselves tournament knights or war knights? Like, what is your preferred fighting arena?
I'm a tourney knight. It's, yeah. I mean, there's no two ways about it. I think that war fighting is an important part of the evolution of our sport. As much as we were trying to recreate some semblance of medieval combat, which we're kind of really not anyway. We were doing a modern martial art that is loosely based on medieval combat. And as much as I think we should improve all aspects of fighting, day to day, we should always be trying to make our sport better. I think melee combat, we should be doing that there as well. I just don't have the passion for melee combat that I do for tourney combat. So I'm definitely a tourney fighter.
Okay.
What's this? I was raised on the list.
I was born on the list field. I was raised in the wars.
So I am 100% a tournament. Is the question knight? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
I'm 100% tournament knight. Although I do enjoy a good war. It was never my focus. It was never what I was really, really interested in. They're fun. I had a great time in them, but I want like Sean said, I want to help evolve this martial aspect of this game, and that's what I focused pretty much all my time on. So tournament.
Yeah, we'll go out there and do the nightly duty and hit a couple of scenarios.
I'll get hit in the face by a pole arm.
Yeah, go out there, take a stiff spear shot and then check out. But I think Sven and I both, we can make greater contributions to the society by helping other fighters in the pickups than we can in melees. And I think we both.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'll follow Uther through a line.
Yeah. But that's what we enjoy, is helping other people get better. And in a lot of ways that is I think I'm doing a greater service to the society by doing that. So I'll go out and play in the war sometimes, but yeah, I'm a tourney fighter.
Cool. All right, gents. We're coming up on our halfway point, so I'm going to ask you this question, and it's kind of a trick question, but it really isn't. So, the plague ends. We're all vaccinated. We're all safe, and we can do things together again.
Sport of Kings.
Oh, you beat me.
You knew what I was going to ask. If you could go for the
you jerk,
for our viewers who are not
was I
mind
supposed
readers,
to was I supposed to push a button first before we do that?
The question is, what event, if you could go to any event in all the known world, what one would you pick to go to?
Sven, would you care to answer that question?
Sport of Kings. On tier.
And why Sport of Kings? Why Sport of Kings?
It just encompasses everything about this game that I love. I mean, tournaments, people, it's not for me. So it's just fighting. Like, I'll wake up 9 o'clock in the morning, I'll put my armor on, and then around 8 o'clock at night, I'll take my armor off and go into bed. Like, then do the same thing the next day, and then the next day, and then I'll just go around. Like, so many teachers, so many people from outside the kingdom coming in and giving, their information, their feel of the game. And it's just the last Sport of Kings we had. I mean, it was awesome. I mean, Sean beat me in the finals of what tournament was that?
It wasn't the Grand Champion tourney, but it was the speed tourney.
Yeah, it was
on Friday.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was awesome. I mean, I just love
and the Sweet 16 we had for that was epic too.
Yeah, it was get there with stuff. I'm like this. I love that event. I love the people that put it on, the time that it takes for them to do it. It's a great event. Anybody who's watching this, and if there's an opportunity for them to go to this event, and if this event happens anytime soon, go to it. It's the best of what we have to offer. So
real quick, just give us a quick rundown on the format for it. I know there's like several tournaments and there's lots of teaching and everything.
So basically they set up ahead of time all the different like people from all out of kingdom and everything, set up for different types of what do they call that show? The teacher line or whatever, the class schedule.
The defined track for classes.
Yeah, and then you have a whole separate area where you have people that just are out there in the Eric, willing to be out there, for hours just to teach people and just to rotate through all day. And then they'll have a torchlight tourney, then they'll have a speed tourney, then they'll have a grand champion tourney, then they'll have a persona specific, like armor specific type thing, and that's the grand champion, correct? Like
right.
Persona based, and I think it starts Thursday or Wednesday or Thursday, and it runs for like 4 days. So I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah, it's awesome. 4 days of teaching our sport, and it was set up very specifically to be tournament focused. And so all the classes that are there are somehow related to the tournament. So you may have somebody that's doing a heraldic display class, which is when you go to tournament, you want to put on your best heraldic display. So there's that sort of thing. So they're not strictly fighting classes, but yeah, I mean, they actually, the Jarl Ulfred, who was kind of the brainchild of Sport of Kings, he's actually kind of put out a caveat and disclaimer, telling people that, like, don't fill up your entire day with classes because you can't consume that much information. And that's the thing. Like, there are classes from 8 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock at night, and on anything that you want to know about fighting. And and they have, as Sven mentioned, they have some of the best trainers in the world coming from all over the place. And as a trainer, not only do you have the best trainers in the world, but from my perspective, you also have the best students in the world, right? The people that come to Sport of Kings to learn from us are like disproportionately invested in their success. You don't get a lot of but from these guys at Sport of Kings. These people are here and they are hungry for knowledge. And you have some people that are like, try to fill up their, like, I want to go to this class and this class and this class and this class. They try to fill up their whole day, and you just can't do it because there is just so much out there, so much information, and it's all golden. Like, seriously, some of the best trainers in the world. And then you get to have world-class competition because you have people coming from all over the known world. The tournaments they have at Sport of Kings, I mean, like I said, that when we finaled last year, I mean, who all did we have in the Sweet 16? I know Ivar and Corsac were both there from Avical. So
my eyes were just on you, man. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
I get to you. So.
And there was 120 people in that list.
Yeah, there was. It was like an enormous.
Yeah, and what they do is they have basically a castle with like two portals, and you just get in line and you walk through the portal, and like you just meet up with the person in front of you, right? So they do kind of a round robin thing where everybody has to fight 10 fights And then after everybody's fought 10 fights, they kind of use that to set the Sweet 16, right?
Yep.
And the cutoff last year
It's like
was
one.
10-1 or 10-0.
Yeah.
There was
Jeez.
a what was it? Was there 4 or was there 6 people that were 9-1 that had to
Yeah.
fight to fill out the last like 3 slots?
Because there was a bunch of people who hadn't lost, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Kind of a high bar there.
yeah. I mean, and you don't know who you're gonna meet up with in those 10 fights.
Mhm.
Except, I just knew that I wasn't going to run into Sven because every time I got in line, I got right behind him.
Yeah. It's like, I'm going left. Oh, we're giving
Other than
secrets.
that, yeah, you just match up with whoever happens to come up in the line, on the other side there, and you go out and fight. And yeah, it was like getting out of the pools. It was 10-0, and then 9-1 for the tiebreakers, and there was like 8 people fighting for 4 different slots, 4 remaining slots.
That is awesome.
Well,
It is
sounds like a blast, and I'm making a trip. I'm putting it on my list.
Portland, Oregon. It is scheduled for August 18 to 21 this year.
Yeah, hopefully.
Oh, awesome. Is there a website up for it already, like a Facebook page or anything that we could throw up?
I think there's a Sport of Kings Facebook page out there. There's the website.
Well, we will.
Is it sportofkings.org? Is that the main website?
I think so.
We'll try and find it and throw it in the comments so everybody can check it out and start making plans. All right, gentlemen. Now is the time where we we get to the real questions, the important questions, the fun questions, the ones that will, I don't know, darken your soul. That's our audience questions. We love our audience. We love their questions. They always have good stuff. So we're going to jump into it. So look at that. See,
Thank you,
there it is, right there. Somebody threw it right in there. All right.
Thanks, Magnus.
You, Richard. Okay. All right. So this one, I'm sure you guys have heard before, but it's always a good question. This one comes from Thomas Kenrickson. And he says, "What is your favorite fighting style, and which was the hardest to learn?"
So I am a sword and shield fighter, hands down. As far as what was the hardest to learn, I mean, I could give you a basic rundown of some of my the order of proficiency, I suppose. I mean, with great sword and glaive being somewhere near the bottom there. I recently started working with a glaive more often. I have entered our crown tourney with a glaive. I've been in our crown 4 times with a glaive, and I've been in the quarterfinals of each of those. I am primarily a sword and shield fighter, but ultimately, one thing I will say about the difference between learning a primary and translating to others is I really do think that you should focus on one weapon system and get a certain level of proficiency with that. Because whatever you learn there is going to translate and transfer to other weapon systems. But if you go to a fighter practice and you do sword and board, and then you do Florentine, and then you do greatsword, and then you do glaive all night long, you're never learning any one of those weapon systems. So you need to learn the one and establish a foundation, and then you can move on to some of the other weapons. And it doesn't matter what that weapon is. I mean, the sword and shield is the dominant system in our sport. Part of that is because of what I refer to as the magic shield concept. Anything that touches the shield couldn't possibly do any damage. So and in the Middle Ages, the primary weapon system, the tournament system was hand and a half or a greatsword. So it's a little bit different for us, and that's just been the evolution of our sport and the way it's happened. But that's our dominant system. It gives you the best balance of offense and defense. But if you want to be a greatsword fighter, do that. It's going to be a longer road to hoe, but it's, you can do that. You don't have to be a sword and board fighter predominantly, but at some point we're going to ask you what you know about that weapon system. Just like if you're a sword and board fighter, we're going to ask you if you know how to use a spear.
So most of my fighting career has been heater and 36-inch sword. That's basically what I started with and what I've become proficient in, what I have won with. I did put a thrusty on it on my sword in the last 6 years, only because I wanted to pay back people who've been thrusting me so much.
It's an arms race.
But now it's become it's become a necessary tool for me, and it's not something that I use, but it's something that I'll bring it out when I can. Actually, in the last 4 years, I switched to a square shield, just because I thought I'd watched Sean do it, and I'd watched Brand from the West and Uther and Jade, and I really liked the aggressive style that went along with it. I thought that fit me. Unfortunately, I kind of tweaked my shoulder doing it really recently, so I'm actually focusing back with the heater, which has been an interesting journey, because you wouldn't think that it's different, but man, it's different. The different angles that you can throw a sword, the different ways that you move, and the things that you can't do with the square comparatively to a heater, it's vast. But I also glaive is something that I enjoy. Pike, I watch people fight Florentine, like Sven Randallson and Athos, and those guys are super proficient with it, and the way they use it is I would love to try to do that. So maybe someday, but I'd say sword and heater is my style.
Awesome. Sir Corsac, he just wanted to know when you're going to switch to teardrop. I'm guessing that's an inside joke.
Yeah, that's your style.
All right. So this question is from the Lord Thorn Ulfson from the East. When you prepare for Crown, what does your training look like? Do you do anything majorly different than normal?
So I'm always, like, I always have that in the back of my brain, like in my mind, no matter if it's January or, May, right before our May Crown. I pretty much go into the tournament season in January, and use that as a means to build up for my Crown in May. And so I'd say the last couple of months, like April and May, it's for me now, it's more of a mental thing than now it is. Back when I won my crowns, it was just physically, I would just go out and I would train 3 times a week. I would watch video, and just nothing would faze me. And that's all I would do. Now I have to like in my mind say, this is something that you want to do and something that you can do, which never really ever crossed my mind 15, 20 years ago. But with the last 3 Crown final losses that I've had, it's been something that I've been working on. And unfortunately, I've been working on it for a year because we can't fight. But I'd say the mental aspect now. But before, it was just repetitive fighting, pel work, fight. That's all I would do. Nothing special.
Special.
Yeah, I mean, my fighting to prepare for a crown looks a lot like what my practice has been for the last 30 years. Because like Sven said, I mean, we're always trying to be better. And a lot of, it turns out you get smarter as you age. And with our sport being ridiculously forgiving to the non-athletic body type, you can, it's interesting that you can have greater success as you get older because you get smarter about your fighting. just like with many other martial arts. I mean, if you look at there's that classic picture of Bruce Lee standing next to Ip Man, and when I look at like one of my coaches, Viscount Sagan, it's the same kind of thing where you look at those two guys standing, they're like, I'll kick that old man's ass, turns out, go ahead, take your best shot there, champ. We get smarter as we do this more. And so, yeah, with Sven, it's much less the physical stuff, because the preparation that I need to do to win crown in October, if that's when we get to have a crown again, I did that work 20, 30 years ago. And it's there. So really, it's just a matter of getting your head straight, and maybe a little bit of tune-up. Right before I won my last crown in 2017, I went down to Great Western War, and I went to the pickup field knowing that I was going to be fighting crown 2 weeks later, and I was pretty selective about the people I was fighting, and it was Duke Guy, and it was Duke Christopher of York, and Duke Connor Bison, and it's like all the guys that were there. I was targeting those guys, and it's just just a little bit of a tune-up, just a little bit of a reminder that if I want to be competitive at that level, that is the level those are the people that I need to be fighting. So a little bit of a tune-up, but other than that, that the hard work you need to do to be competitive in crown is stuff you're doing, right now before you've won, and it's a lot of hard work. But after, they say the first crown is the hardest. Because after that, then you know that you can, and once you know that you can, you just that makes all the difference.
So it's funny. I was watching because of all this interviews and everything that's going on right now. I went back and looked at my old VHS collection and looked at my first crown win comparatively to my third crown win. And I was a completely different beast. Like it was amazing. So I was like, how did I win that first crown? But it was it's been interesting going back and looking at that stuff. So
yeah, I'll tell you the first crown that I won, I fought one of my good friends in the finals, Duke Basil, who's now a Duke. But he and I had not won crown yet, and so we're both in the finals. Ended up and beating him, and I say I ended up beating Basil. Like I ended up being king. Like I didn't dominate that list.
I lost my first round fight in the crown I won. The first crown I won.
I fought well, but it's not like I just went into my first crown list and just like murdered everybody. I kind of got by. I ended up winning. But by the time I got to my third crown, I was like, I did absolutely dominate the finals of that list. I pretty much just rolled right through everybody. And by the time I got done with that, I'm like, next. Like I could do this all day. I mean, I was in pretty good shape. It's just one of those days where I was really that on, and I'm like, I could do this all day long. So I don't know if that was your experience, Sven, when you won your third one.
Well, when Uther came and won our crown, and then I won after him and stepped down in July, and then I fought in the next September crown, and I thought it was going to be like I thought it was going to be 15 different people, but as it went through and they just started falling one by one, and I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? This is really this was not my time, but it was just like, and then I'm like, wow, yeah. So it's just an interesting progression. So you really got to pick and choose. Now I just lose. So.
But you look good doing it.
What's that? Oh, I look good. Really well.
All right, gentlemen. So we're gonna get out of these super serious questions and have a little bit of fun here. So, what is your favorite chivalric virtue, and what X-Men universe character best embodies that virtue? And if you can't see, that's his from our own Lord Cal from Kal-bardr's Corner.
Let's see. So my favorite chivalric virtue has changed over the years, but I think right now it has to be faith. Especially as you're working towards being a knight, as an up and coming squire. There's a lot of things that you don't understand about the process, and sometimes you gotta, you just got to keep plowing along and keep fighting. And faith can take you a long way. And it's just, I know for me, even after I got knighted, when I was starting to compete in crowns, and cornet list, there was I kind of had a crisis of faith early on, where I was after I got knighted, I went in the military, and then I got out and started entering crown and cornet list, and then when I don't win, it's like some sort of character assault, like I'm a terrible person because I didn't win crown, and because I was supposed to be this great big thing, and I was throwing all this pressure on myself, all this coulda, woulda, shoulda bullshit. And it wasn't until I finally got over that I was able to actually compete. And it took a great leap of faith for me to be able to just say, look, it doesn't matter if I win or lose this tournament, I'm going to do well. I'm going to go deep in this list. I'm going to fight well. And that may or may not translate into a victory at the end, but I'm going to fight well. And so that was a bit of a crisis of faith for me. And that's the thing, that once I got over that, fighting got a lot easier and a lot more fun. But it took a little bit. As far as which X-Men character best personifies that, I don't know. I'm gonna go with Wolverine.
Oh, come on.
Did I take yours again?
I'll be more like old man Logan. There's a virtue like tenacity. A hay-bub virtue. Oh yeah.
I mean, I was gonna go with faith or Wolverine, because he had all this stuff happen to him, and he has no idea how that why is he the guy that they put the blades in and make him all regenerate his health and all this, and not knowing why or how it all happened. And then you just kind of roll with it and just kind of take it as it is. But yeah, old man Logan, is that you?
That's mine. Next question.
But what's your favorite virtue?
So yeah, are you going with faith as well?
Virtues.
Hey, enough. Sorry, dog.
I said name 5 virtues.
Name 5
virtues?
Yeah. Just give me some virtues.
There's faith, prowess, largesse, franchise.
Yeah, I don't have any of those things.
I do not believe that.
How about we go with humility?
Oh, humility. How would I know that Sean would point that out? Yeah, humility.
I mean, one of us really should have just a bit of humility, and it's not me.
What X-Men character goes along with humility? Because it's not Wolverine.
I'd probably think Cyclops.
Yeah,
because he's and Beast. Beast is also good. Yeah, he's humble, yet still kicks ass. All right. Well, that was a goofy question, but what can you expect coming from Cal? All right, so let's move on to our next one here, and this is a really good one. So, a decent chunk of the SA is in remote areas like Alaska, Montana, Canada, etc. And a lot of those locations, they only have 1 or 2 knights and a handful of fighters. What could you recommend the fighters out there to do to continually evolve besides Pell work, Duke Sean? And that comes from the most besides Pell work, and that comes from the most lovely Princess of the Mist, Princess Sarah.
And she knew that would be my answer.
Yeah, that's
You got any former squires in remote areas there, Sven? Like Canada?
Yeah, I have a few, but I mean, really, like all you need is a few knights and a few different fighters, and then you can all just elevate you all just elevate each other, right? Just by being together. I mean, that's how. So you may not think it, but I live in kind of a remote area. Like Spokane is 6-7 hours from any place metro, like big kingdom wise in our kingdom, and at times we could have 3 fighters at our practice. So what I did is I would just be there as a leader of that area, and whoever comes, build them up step by step, week by week, month by month, until they're at a level. I mean, I'm always challenging myself just by myself, but you just got to build that core group up, and then sooner or later you've got 5 monsters in your area, and that's my kids here. Thanks.
It's fine.
And then you showed up too.
Yeah. She's like a whirlwind of energy. So
mine are yours.
Mine, I'm sure yours is.
I think the answer is yes. Yeah.
But that's what I've done, and that's what we do currently right now. I mean, well, not right now, but when we can, right? Because there's times when we have less than 5 people, and how are you going to excel? I mean, you just got to buckle down and just learn.
Yeah, we when back in the 90s, when Artemisia was still Principality of Edenvelt, our northern areas up in Montana, they were kind of making shit up as they go along, and they're just doing the best they can to be better fighters, but without any. It's kind of hard without any direction, and it's also kind of difficult without like having any knights in your local area to kind of give that direction. So one of the things that I've always said about this is, people like me and Sven, like, we want to help anywhere we can, and if you're in a remote area and you want somebody to help you, you can import that talent. This is not any kind of money-making venture for me, but if you throw some gas money at me and say, come on up and teach my guys how to fight, I'm going to go. I'm going to find a weekend to do that. If you're going to make it so that I don't have to spend anything out of my pocket to help you, I'm going to help you. And honestly, as a knight, our job is to teach people. So if you're going to put that effort into it, I feel obligated to accommodate that. That's my job, right? And as opposed to you get one guy from Billings, Montana, that collects all up his money, breaks the bank so that he could get down to one of our big tournaments down at Salt Lake, and he goes 2-0 in a tournament, and then he goes home and he didn't learn anything, right? Well, if you were to take just some of those resources and spread it out between 5 or 6 of you in a group and bring me up for a weekend, I'm actually going to teach you how to fight. I'm going to give you a roadmap for you becoming a better fighter yourself. And like, you'd be surprised. Any of the knights that you see in your kingdom that you respect, that you think can teach it all, you help them out a little bit, they're more than happy to come out there and help you. And it's a much more effective use of your resources to import somebody to show you how to do this, rather than trying to get out there and hope that you get noticed.
And I've met a lot of cool people that you have done this with, that I just happened to be there, and it trickled down to me. And it's been, it's a great experience. You get to meet a lot of different people, and I've seen him do it. He does it all the time. So.
Yeah,
no, that's an excellent answer.
I know in the West, you guys were doing the traveling roadshows thing too, right?
Yes, yeah, and those were the meet and beats. It was a fantastic idea, and then pandemic. So,
yeah,
but it was great because it was basically, hey, we're having it's an event, but it's not an event. It's a fighter practice, and we're all going to be here in this part of the kingdom. And then we're a month later or a couple months later, we're all going to be here in this part of the kingdom. So like it wasn't always the same people at each one, but you got to move around, and eventually they get too close to you. So if you couldn't go to the other ones, due to life, then it would get close enough to you where, hey, that's an hour away, or hey, that's a couple hours away. I can go for the day, learn a lot of stuff. So yeah, that's fantastic. And hopefully after everything clears up, we'll get back into it. But yeah, those are fantastic.
The reason I mentioned one of Sven's former squires, one of his former squires is currently the king of Abacal. So when Vic was squire to you, I mean, how did that work?
He was one of those guys where he had drive and he had passion, right? And so nothing was going to stop him from attaining whatever it is that he wanted to attain. And so we have an event in Ontario. It's called Ursulmus, and we have it in the end of January every year. And it's like you can get 150 fighters in that tournament like every year. And so these guys, so he lives up in Edmonton, which is like 12 hours to Spokane, and then it's another 5 hours to Seattle. So they're driving 17 hours each just to go to this event, right? I mean, and so we would take all that time, and he was really a force. And I was, like I've said before, I was lucky to be, in his journey, but he made himself available so that we could train, yeah.
And I remember when,
if I was up there, I don't know if I'd be playing this game.
I remember when Vic was newly knighted, and he was Vic was the second prince of Abacal, and he came to Artemisia's first crown tourney as second prince, and I remember it pretty clearly because he said, "Look, we're a new principality, and we're watching you. We're watching to see how this transformation happens for you as a new kingdom coming from a principality and going into the kingdom. So we're watching." And Vic used to come down to some of our Montana events all the time. We had Griffin's Fury, right, which is the first time that Sven and I actually met, but we didn't fight that weekend. He used to come down to that. What's that?
We just sizing each other up.
Yeah, that's right. Get a little side eye, like, "Hey, bro, hey, we'll be seeing you later."
Sorry,
but Vic came down. He would come down to Montana all the time. He would come to you and then take that shit back home. And he would encourage our guys from Montana to come up. It's like, "Hey, we got this small fledgling barony in Edmonton. Come on up." And that's how it works. I mean, you give people a reason to come up.
Yeah, I guess he's probably a good one to ask that question to, because they definitely
we can probably arrange that.
Well, then I guess we'll have to have him on the show.
Oh yeah,
get Vic and Sven on for Ask the Knights.
Nobody wants that.
Hey, at least one person wants that. His Grace Sean has just said that he wants to see.
There you go. I would love to see. And I really want to see. I want to see Vic and Sven on Ask the Knights live. So maybe I'll see if I can pull some strings.
Yeah, there you go.
If I have one person that wants to watch the show, I will do the show.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, we're almost to the end. I have one more question for you guys, but before we get to that question, I have to remind our lovely audience, hey, this show and all the other shows out there, they only run because you are out there, you watch, and we thank you for that. What you can do to help us out, though, are a couple of things. First, I want you to haul back and swing around and give a big flat snap to that like button. Those like buttons, that they really, really help us out and get us pushed a little bit farther into the interwebs so that other people can see the show. Secondly, if you want to help support us just a little bit financially, we also have a Patreon right there. You can show us your support right there at patreon.com. KK Productions, that is Kal-bardr Corner Productions. And Cal, of course, is the one who produces. Well, we counted it before the show. He's up to like 12 shows now. And all that money does is it does fantastic things like get me these new fantastic earbuds so that I don't have the giant headphones on anymore. So you can see my beautiful face. So if you want to help us out and keep us, going and pumping out more of these shows, you like these shows, maybe consider doing that. And we really do appreciate it. So, gents, last question of the evening. It's always one of my favorites. Give me some inspiration for these fine unbelts and myself on the path. What kind of, what do you use for inspiration? Books, TV, music? What inspires you and gets you into that medieval magic moment?
Well, there's a couple of shows I'm involved in. First off, I'd say the SDA Coaches Corner. On Friday nights, we got an episode coming up tomorrow on starting over again. Some ideas on how to get back to fighting after the pandemic. So that's going to be a great episode. And then also this weekend on Sunday, I do a series with Kal-bardr called on What Makes a Knight. It's an ongoing series that we're doing on the various things on aspects of becoming a knight. And this Sunday, we are doing an episode on networking and cultivating relationships. And that we are going to have Duchess Sir Helga as our special guest for that one. Everybody says that I know everybody, but I don't. I know Helga and she knows everybody, so that's close enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna be doing that. There's so much really great SEA related content out there right now. But before I go too much into those, I'm gonna let Sven hit a couple of those because I don't want to take all his answers.
Oh, am I going now?
Yeah,
yes, sir.
I'd say what's really kept me motivated and what's really kept me involved in the SCA right now is the sisters interviews that are going on with Sarufkin and Mistress Ashaksi. It's if you guys haven't, if whoever's watching this hasn't had an opportunity to go check that out, do, because you've got some great people telling some great stories about their SCA experiences, who they are, what's going on. And it keeps me, even though I haven't seen anybody at all for a year, it's kept me close to watching some of these people like Kjart and Tiernan, all these people that are telling these stories. If you get an opportunity, check that out. And also Excalibur motivates me to no end. I put that in and watch that movie, and I'll go out and practice. I mean, that's one of the things that keeps me motivated in these dark times.
And a double feature with Night Riders.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom Savini on motorcycle any day of the week. So, yeah. So that's what I do.
Excellent. And of course, I have to always push my sibling show Between Two Peers, because if you haven't seen the show, you should. It's Friday night. It's 7 p.m. and I mean, it's a pandemic. What the hell else are you going to do? Grab yourself a frosty beverage, throw them on, and usually laugh yourself silly. Maybe get a little bit of thinking in, but you will have a good time. I love them. You'll love them too, I think. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being on the show. It's been a pleasure, and I'll have you back on anytime. Your Grace Sean, you've been on. This is your second time on, so I always tell people. Yeah. I always tell people it's like you've done the show once. That means you automatically signed up for any other show that we could hook you into. So Duke Sven, you're on the hook.
Well, I feel like a sixth grader, and he's like a college student.
Well, that's okay.
But
when you do the show with Vic, you'll be the veteran, and you'll have all the experience in doing this.
See?
Yeah.
Did you catch the part where I said when you do the show with Vic?
Thanks, Your Grace. Appreciate
So
it.
we'll work on that later. Hey, everybody out there, tune in for that show. You'll find out when it is. And how do you find out when it is? Oh yes, this is next week. But how do you find out when our shows are? Hey, you can just check the Ask the Knights live page on Facebook. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And head on over there and like and share that too. So if you like what we're doing here, share us around. All right, guys. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you next week. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for having us, Logan.
Thanks.
Absolutely.